Yo, what is up, good people? What is up? Just yesterday, we were sitting right here. Everybody in the world knowing what time it is. Nobody shocked, surprised. Everybody knew what this was. It was like still jarring when Ryan Clark was let go. And we watched everyone tell you every excuse in the book. Every single one. About what happened. You on the ESPN desk, him yelling at the white guy, whatever, corrected him, and using that as the reason why. Not one that I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them, not one told you why Ryan Clark was fired and gave you the same things that I gave you. No insight. And that's not surprising. It's not. But this is what we talk about a lot, about people not doing the work. This is what we mean by it. This is what we know about it. This is how we go about seeing it when we don't see the work being represented correctly. When people are not doing what they should be doing in that moment of time. We're completely not seeing it. Only a few people recognize the fact that I was the one who told people just yesterday Cam Newton would be next. After I told you why Ryan Clark was gone. So everything is aligning to the reasons I told you he would be gone. I know somebody said it's like the whisper from God. No, it's not hard to see. Because if they fired him and for the reasons that they did, then others would understand that, oh, this is serious. Now this everything you said aligns. Of course. Because I told you it's business and it's all who they are going. When they circle the wagons, they're going to circle and protect the ones they like. Because they're not in control. They're on their way out. It's a major difference. Oh, yeah, you know that. Come on now. Why would they want that? Ask yourself that question. Why would they want that to be the case? Yeah, some of you got it. Like I'm seeing some people in the chat are saying, "Sino, you was right. You called it yesterday." And because a lot of people didn't see it yesterday and they saw what I had with Ryan Clark, it is now turned into this. But let's go to this from yesterday. As me, Carcino, is thinking that Cam Newton will be fired next. Told you yesterday, I think he's gone too, based on why he's gone. As I just went through a lot of them with you, that he had on the show, his comments about certain players. They didn't want that on the Super Bowl platform. And he won't be the only one to be released. As me, Carcino, is thinking that Cam Newton will be fired next, which will bring up a lot of people who will be upset about a move such as that. That might be too bold, so don't say that. They're going to say, Sino, don't you dare say that. But I believe Cam Newton will be fired next. And same chair, different shirt, different time. But it's the same result because they did exactly what I thought they were going to do. Fire Cam Newton. And I said, look at the expression on my face. I wasn't happy about that. I didn't even want to bring that in the air. But if I didn't say it, no one would have believed it. So I had no choice but to put it in the air. Granted, there's a lot of people out here with their expectations. It's a lot of people with expectations of where the direction that people are pulling themselves towards, that they should be going to, and they should be aligning themselves to go down these roads or these avenues. A lot of that need to be reevaluated. A lot of it. Now, when you look at the big picture and you're looking at it collectively, now you understand what the problem is. So now you see that Cam Newton was fired, but a lot of people said, well, why? Same reasons. Same reason they fired Cam Newton is the same reason Ryan Clark is gone. This is an NFL decision, people. I will say it again because no one else is paying too much attention to it. Some people got warm, but not enough. But I said a lot of people could take notice once Cam gets fired that the young black talent is being replaced. Somebody who gives a different approach, somebody who has knowledge and is entertaining, but never have really done too much of anything besides beating up the mascot. This is a combination of different things. You're making room for one side to appease another side. The NFL want to try to get rid of a lot of woke behavior. Here's the big kicker, people. As I keep telling y'all, why these incidents and these scenarios keep happening. It's always very clear to the person that's not involved, who's on the outside looking in, who's dealt with these type of mergers and business deals before, and see the way they're played out. When it's time to circle the wagons and people are losing money, Black folks, we're not good bargaining chips. Stephen A.'s job would be safe because you know what Stephen A.'s going to do. If Cino was working at ESPN, Cino would have been let go 3 weeks ago before this happened. They'd have got Cino out the door ASAP. But I'll say it for one more time for the people in the back who didn't hear me yesterday. Not only did I say Cam Newton would be fired, I didn't just say that without context or reference to what I was saying. Here's why Cam Newton, not Newton. Here's why he's been fired or laid off or whatever they call it. Laid off with no intentions to return. Yep, they will eat each other. But here's why you're seeing this development happen so rapidly. And it seemed like it came out of nowhere, right? Like, no, they wouldn't get rid of Cam because Cam was doing a good job. People like listening to Cam. Well, let's go to the reason why they hired Cam Newton in the first place. Cam Newton was hired for what reason? They hired Cam Newton to come in and replace Shannon Sharpe. When Shannon Sharpe left abruptly, they had an open space. Cameron was supposed to get that space. And Cameron went on CNN and did an interview that messed him up completely. He started trying to sell his horsepower and basically got banned from CNN. Stephen A. Smith called him and was like, why would you do that? He was like, man, that's CNN. He's like, I'm selling my horsepower. He was like, the bosses see that. Now I can't help you. So Stephen A. was mad because he wanted to bring Cameron in. Now Cam Newton is tearing things up on his own platform, 1st and 10. He's got his own like Club Shay version of his show where he sit down and have one-on-ones with guests. Both shows are doing well. But here's the thing. When First Take is on, people are watching Cam Newton and Cameron. That's why ESPN, Stephen A. want to break that up so he could bring them on his show at that time, saying, look, we got Cam and Cameron. That's why I'm here to tell it all to you so you would know it. So everybody who come here is going to have information, not rumor, gossip, and he did this on the show, and this is what he did because he yelled at a white man. He corrected a white man. And they're going to just run with that because they're just going to get all the views. And right now they use views to validate what's important and what isn't important. But it's not the truth. Now, the truth of the matter is covering the NFL and go in there with sometimes give his NFL when they do the NFL live. Sometimes he would join in. But Ryan Clark had that position that used to be RJ3's position. So whenever the ESPN would broadcast the games, Ryan Clark would do that. And when they do a live first take or whatever, you'll see Cam Newton. They had an incident with Ryan Clark and Cam Newton was there and the mascot got beat up. Cam didn't get fired. This is not going to have anything to do with why Cam Newton was let go. Once again, NFL, ESPN, they bought NFL Network. It really was the other way around. The NFL merged with ESPN to bring NFL Network to ESPN. The NFL now owns 10% of ESPN. Why is nobody mentioning this but me? ESPN gave up 10% of its corporation to the NFL for $3 billion. Once again, $3 billion. They're going to have to fire. I told you there's going to be some equipment man gone. They're going to have to fire more people so it don't look so racist. But what they're doing is NFL Network is keeping their staff because it's basically a corporate takeover. The NFL has basically bought ESPN. So they spent $3 billion on this merger. And they brought in not one, not two, not three, but 4 different positions that they want, that that's their main concern to fix. Okay? Concern number 1 that they wanted fixed was the commentary on ESPN on football. They wanted to go back to the way it was. This is the first time ESPN is getting the Super Bowl. The other networks was kind of pissed. They didn't want ESPN involved in the Super Bowl circle. Fox had to get involved. They finally did one with Fox once they got recognized to be a real company, a real news channel, because it used to be ABC, NBC, ABC. And they used to alternate the Super Bowl every year. Now Fox got involved. So this pushes the other networks out. So now here we go again. Now we reverted back to, now we're adding ESPN. And the NFL now owns 10% of it for $3 billion. Now they're bringing in NFL Network. So now you're going to get powder puff information that the NFL can control. They don't want variables in there that they can't control. This has nothing to do with Pat McAfee getting $60 million. Pat McAfee do not work for ESPN. I'm glad you brought that up. Pat McAfee wanted $100 million. They settled on $60 million. Pat McAfee has a licensing deal with ESPN. They licensed to have Pat McAfee show. Everybody on his staff, ESPN can't fire them. They can't fire nobody on Pat McAfee show because they don't own anybody there. They don't work for them. He showed you the way to do it. You partner with them. The NFL Network didn't have to fire anybody. All those guys are coming over to ESPN. So they're not going to need some of those people on NFL Live. They're not going to merge a lot of them over. The NFL do not want Ryan Clark, and they do not want Cam Newton. That's the NFL's decision. This is how I knew those two would be fired. Not he's just going to do First Take. They don't want him on the network. And who you think was going to get their way? The NFL or Cam Newton? So now you know the NFL now owns 10% of ESPN for $3 billion. They do not announce that anywhere. Why is the question people need to be asking themselves, out of all these people that claim they do research and they have the information, why not one of them are saying that? Because they want to stay with sensationalizing headlines, clickbait, follow the same thing the next man said. Why wouldn't you go research it? Why wouldn't you go look it up? I use this as an opportunity to tell people the truth so that other people who are looking at this will look at it, recognize, and understand, hey, this guy's telling us the truth. Why everybody else is not doing that? Demand them to tell you the truth as well. But Pat McAfee's salary has nothing to do with these layoffs. This is ESPN's problem. This has nothing to do with Pat McAfee. Like, they got to get money up to pay Pat. They don't have to get money up to pay Pat. They will pay Pat McAfee his money. It got nothing to do about firing everybody else. Well, they said Cam Newton, he interviewed Jason Whitlock. That's got him fired. Cam was only been there for about a year and a half. So his contract was coming to an end anyway. Then they were going to reevaluate, was he going to even remain on the staff? They brought Cam on to the show, and he was working side by side with Shannon Sharp. And then they were going to bring Cameron on. But they were hoping this Shannon Sharp thing would just blow over. But he was going to replace him. Everybody looking at Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, man, where you at? Why you ain't help your boy? Because he can't. He's a worker. So now on Monday, Stephen A. Smith's going to have to find a new person to be his person. Plus, First Take was losing viewership. Out of all the shows, I told you, Sports Center went up. The Get Up has shot up tremendously on the Get Up. Stephen A. wants all the black people around him because he wants black people to be kissing up to him because he know white folks ain't. He wants somebody to look up to him like a boss. The ESPN firings today is the NFL's firings today. Yeah, Carl Ravik, Tom Pelissaro, and Carl has been there forever. I told you, they cannot fire two black guys like that and just be like, all right, we're done. No, White people finna roll. Just just to balance it all out. But it's all about the NFL. Well, the ESPN purchased the NFL network. That was part of a series of agreements, right? They spent the past 6 months trying to sort out all the pieces from everything that happened. And the NFL's got the Los Angeles operations, right? NFL network. ESPN left California and brought themselves back to Bristol, New York to save money because they were losing so much money out there. So they want to try to figure out how they're going to coordinate who's going to work with the NFL network and their Los Angeles collection, and they have their New York uh, affiliates here. And so for 6 months, they're trying to say who we're going to keep, who's going to jettison. Let's look at these contracts. So far, what I know is Ryan Clark, Cam Newton, the stalwart, David Lloyd. They have the injury expert, Stephiana Bell, Bart Scott, the all pro linebacker. He's fired. So Charles Davis, who was the analyst at NFL Network, his contract was up, so he's gone. Well, that was about contracts. Mostly people's contract was expiring at the end of this year. So they was like, okay, we got an expiring contract here. We're not going to re-sign them. We got an expiring contract here. We're not going to re-sign them. Bart Scott was tremendous on on NFL Network and I mean on ESPN, breaking down the game. Bart Scott has been great for years. I'm quite sure they're going to get a tremendous severance package. Getting rid of Ravik. They had him, and then the NFL Network. What was his name? Tom Pelissero. Yeah, they had to fire him. They only let him go because they needed the white guy, the conservative white guy who covered the game. He had to be a sacrificial lamb. Yep, Bart Scott is fired also. Mina Kimes or whatever her name is. Mina Kimes is an Asian lady who's talking NFL. They are not getting rid of her. Even though when you listen to her, I'm like, wait a minute, huh? And then they praise her all the time. Oh, the outstanding, great, phenomenal Mina Kimes. I'd be like, phenomenal. Phenomenal. Do you want to go over what phenomenal really means? Because it don't mean Mina Kimes. I'm going to tell you that right now. Phenomenal does not say Mina Kimes. Are we really getting at what phenomenal means now, or are we redefining it? Do we think it tanked because Molly Carum left? No, I think it tanked because you had too many cooks in the kitchen. You keep changing faces and have a rotating carousel of people. And you don't have any stability on the show that people can get behind. Nobody tuned in for Molly. Why do you think Molly's not even on television right now? She can't get a job because she only did First Take. They tried to offer her a show before, but all she wanted to do was First Take. And she kept demanding to be treated like the men. No, the men have their show. I can have my show. The men get to work one show. Why I got to work 2-3 shows? Now, it's been tremendous dealing with all of these other people that's on the scene. Did Dan Orlovsky get fired? I don't think Dan got fired. I don't think they fired Dan Orlovsky. But it's amazing. Tim Tebow got re-signed. And he'll be covering college football. It's amazing how people keep falling upwards. You got a guy who's in the closet like Tebow, running around here with a fake wife, fake Christian belief. But that's for not here. That's for the Patreon. But it's like I told you. These people are... Oh, Molly works with Zoo for Boxing. Good. So she gets to sleep with Dana White. Great. Now, Max Kellerman got her that job because of her. She's like, I don't have any place else to go, Max. I'm getting old. That's good. That's great. That means I'm doing my job. I'm surviving. Never saw myself as an old man in none of my dreams. So I'm blessed. Cameron would make appearances on ESPN, but he's doing like what they call days. He doesn't have a full contract with ESPN. Yeah, we'll talk about that Tebow stuff on the Patreon. We can't bring it up over here. Now, listen. Everybody who knows I'm gonna watch the Spence fight. Now, everybody knows one or two things is gonna happen here. You're gonna see a turning of the wheel here. Everybody who didn't think that they could be part of something that is bigger than themselves now going to say, oh my God. Because a lot of people thought Cam was safe. They didn't think anything was going to happen to Cam. And they said, wait a minute. Tim Tebow, who was the guy over there in Florida when Cam was, I believe, the backup when they won a national championship, and Cam left Florida. To show that I am better than Tim Tebow. He said Mina Kimes replaced Josina Anderson was one of the worst decisions ESPN has ever made. Yeah, so Cam is on days. Would Cam Newton be let go and not Cameron? Cameron don't really have a deal like that. So they bring him back and he just keeps going till his days run out or until they decide to sign him to a contract, a full-term contract on the show like Cam got. Cam Newton had a full contract. But this was an NFL decision. They did not want Cam Newton calling any of their games. They didn't want Ryan Clark calling any of their games. Ryan Clark had a lot of incidents out there, and the NFL is still racist, baby. And now they're going to run ESPN, every sports person's nightmare. And they finna bring ESPN back to the good old boy days. Yeah, boy, we got to get these good old boys in there. Steven, you ain't got to worry about nothing. You've been a good boy, Steven. I told you. All they got to do is listen to me. But no, they going to wear all the braids and the wild hats and all that. What you got a hat on in here for? It's 300 degrees. So all of these people have to understand is that this is a glowing shift that is happening in professional sports. Money is being lost considerably with these networks. And they're trying to keep pivoting to cover it all up. Past 10 years, as I told all of them, oh, you have no stronghold. The internet runs the game. The people would rather watch other people than you. Because your false propaganda you've been spreading for years, that made you every sports person's nightmare. You've lost that stronghold. Fox recognized and said, hey, we're getting out of that debate show business. We're getting out of it. We got one show, two shows. We'll keep calling and then we'll keep first things first. Everybody else is gone. We'll just run content. They're going back to content. And this is why Fox Sports is still alive. They went back to the formula of what brought them. That wave of debate TV that was that 2016 wave all the way into now, y'all done burnt it out. Sports Center used to be the flagship show. Now y'all wanted to make that first take. That's a problem. Pardon the interruption, still gets the most views. ESPN will be completely absorbed by the NFL pretty soon. They're 10%. They're running almost everything. Disney, the NFL are running the show. Jimmy Pitaro, he's just the guy that deals with all of the bosses on the show. He's to run the asylum. So the head of Disney and Jimmy Pitaro are the only two people that talk to Pat McAfee. And it can tell him what's what. Now, the NFL, now that they own a piece of ESPN, this might be a weird situation for Pat McAfee. Because now, if he says something that doesn't align with the NFL, they might have some words. And Pat's going to tell them, F you. I don't work for you. I don't work for ESPN. I'm separate. I can say what I want to say. And the NFL will be mad about it. But they see Pat's numbers. And all the racist people want to start coming back around. Now, Cam Newton didn't do anything to any of y'all people. But you hate Cam Newton, right? You had your reasons for Ryan Clark, but what you dislike Cam Newton for? What'd he do to you? Oh, he didn't do anything. He just black and got weird hair. And you want to use an excuse like woke to push your alarm button. He's woke. Oh, this woke talk. Woke. Cam Newton don't do woke talk. I don't really see him do woke talk on ESPN at all. So I don't understand what people are talking about. He actually gives insight. But he's not a company man. Once he went at it with Stephen A. Smith on his own show, on his First and 10, and says, I can do what I want to do. ESPN do not control me. He put himself at the top of the chopping block. Nobody is going to, they're not going to cater to anybody that they can't control. I knew Cam was out. If you got rid of Ryan Clark, who I knew was going to be first on the list to go, that's why they did it in the fashion they did. Why wouldn't they just let everybody go today? Because they wanted to humiliate Ryan Clark. That was a humiliation. That's what I'm saying. When you come here, I'm not in a rush to be first. If I got the information, then I'll be first. But until then, I want to chill and get some insight so that you can know what's what. Half of the time when news break, I'm already in another live. And then I have to stop my live, then say, hey, we're going to go live on this situation because we got the breaking news. Like remember when Luka Doncic got traded? I was in the middle of a live. I've never heard that analogy. I'm black as a crayon. And I'm tired of this nonsense, bro. That's the thing. This is the thing about it, Will, is this. We don't own anything. We keep circling right back to the point. We don't own anything. We like to play boss. Stephen A. Smith like to play boss. But what do you own? You work for ESPN. You're an employee. You don't have any control. This way you protect yourself from these type of firings. We don't have a black network that protects us. So you're working for a white racist corporation that you know is white and racist, but they're hiring you because they need your black skin to try to prove that they're not racist. They're not there to teach you sports or tell you information. They're the actual nightmare of sports. That's what ESPN stands for, every sports person's nightmare. And they're going to continue to push this narrative because we don't own. But now, because of YouTube and everywhere else, players have their own voice. They have their own personalities. You get to see them. Cam Newton doing his own thing. Cam was your guy, white America. Cam Newton was your guy. Did y'all forget? Cam was your guy. Everywhere Cam went, the whole world was in love with Cam Newton. Did you know Cam Newton had no tattoos? Yeah. Cam Newton was your guy. He did everything you guys asked. He was in a suit. He had the and you still hated him. Cam Newton did everything you asked of him, and y'all still hated him. You didn't have to worry about a dress code. He didn't have the wild hair. He kept his hair low cut. He was in nice business suits. He was all clean cut. He was everything white America said they wanted black people to be. Today was criticizing him because he wasn't more like Michael Vick. Man, Cam, yeah, man, he a commercial dude, man. He ain't nobody, man. He ain't no. Look at him, man. Y'all wasn't feeling Cam. Y'all used to villainize him. Michael Vick was y'all guy. Man, Vick. Man, anybody want to hear this old uppity ass Cam Newton? It's all about Vick. Mike Vick, though. But when Cam was young and starting out, no tats, wore suits, straight hair, nobody had this stain. Nobody had smoke for Cam Newton. The whole NFL, he was everything white America said they wanted black people. Why can't they just do this? Why can't they just do that? Well, Cam Newton did that. And you hated on Cam Newton too. So what else is it? Cam Newton did. He checked every box y'all said y'all liked. The only box he couldn't check is that he wasn't white. That's the only box he couldn't check. And it was like, well, you know, when you get these running quarterbacks, Cam Newton was everything but that. He would rush and he would pass. As a rookie, he threw for 4,000 yards. That's a lot, y'all. The most yards he thrown for in his entire career was his rookie year, and they called him a running quarterback. He had threw for over 3,000 yards for 7 straight years. He got hurt in 2019. And was let go. Let that sink in. Got hurt one time in 2019, and they let him go. After taking him to a Super Bowl and everything, you let this man go. Then he go to New England with no plans on being the guy. Throws for 2,600 yards. Almost threw for another 3,000 yards. Then he goes out back to the Panthers and throws for, 600 some yards and played a couple of games to end his career out, being forced out of the NFL. So if I'm Cam, yeah, I'm going to wear braids. I'm going to do anything I want. I'm going to wear a big old hat. I'm going to do whatever I want because I did it your way and you didn't like that. So I might as well tell you which way I want you to move or turn. You're not going to like me anyway. I'm not your color frame. I get it. So I might as well talk to you the way I feel like it, because in your head, I'm still going to be the N-word anyway. So why am I going to shuck and drive to try to change your mind or opinion? No. Talk to you the way I want to. See, and now because of the internet, all of this marketing dollars and all this money is drying up because the problem that they have on the horizon is that the majority of these sponsorship people like FanDuel, DraftKings, they've wasted all of this money and not getting nothing back in return. That's why you see FanDuel TV gone, Fubo TV barely hanging in there. You got DraftKings gone. No, they're not gone, but they cut back on a lot of their shows. Everybody's shows is getting cut back on because they're not seeing anything in return because the shows are not pushing the narratives of what they need to get signed. Same thing I told Gil from day one. He didn't know his job. Your job is to push Underdog Fantasy in that app. That app was the lifeline of them validating. It's not about the viewerships of the show. It's not going to help Underdog. They don't care about that. So they're not seeing return on investments. People are going to lose their jobs. So when people lose their jobs and get fired, what's going to be the next step? No, because you reach a cap or you reach a ceiling where the majority of these people are not signing up. Because when you start getting these numbers, most of these people are kids, they're gamers, they're not gamblers. So they can't, most of them are not 21. Your target audience is a young audience that don't really know anything about gambling. They know something about the game and they might do fantasy football, but they don't know how to do fantasy betting and all this stuff. They don't, most of them, that's for like older people. And when your target audience is not strong in the 30-year-old department, I couldn't see a 30-year-old person sitting there watching like Gil's Arena. You know, you got guys dressing up like babies and stuff on the show and clowns, setting us all the way back with the buffoonery, you know, and they just don't see it because they're getting money. You'd rather be on a clown, you'll be a little baby, you know, and this is supposed to, you know, sell the show. This tells them who they can control. It's a shame. But this is how you end up in situations where you have, you know, court cases that gets publicized and go into a direction that many people never expected. And you end up, you know, tearing down all these other corp companies that you work for while you keep trying to run out with all the money. And then there's nothing left. Well, they never called Steve Young a running quarterback either. And Steve Young took off all the time. They used to praise him for running. So it's all about who they like. Now, when Ryan Clark did what he did for the company of ESPN, and what he used to do is speak up personally, and I was like, wow, you know, hey, I agree with Ryan Clark there, but I'm surprised he did that on ESPN. And then he would apologize the very next day. Ryan Clark was building his brand. He was all about his brand, the Ryan Clark brand, and doing what's right, because a lot of these guys secretly want to be sponsored by these left-wing liberals. And that liberal money, woo, that's good money. Yes, it was worse. He dressed up as a clown. He dressed up as a baby. He dressed up as I don't even know. It was a weird looking Santa Claus dude. Like, it was just horrible. It was cringe to see that type of behavior again and again and again. Mm-hmm. Gilbert grew up in the same neighborhood as Gabrielle Union. Yeah, but Gil was living in a car while she was living in a house. Feet out the window. Damn stray dog licking his damn toes at night. So as all of this keeps flipping, the same scenario, Ryan Clark and Cam Newton were both in the same boat. So when people start looking and saying, man, like, why did they do this? Why does this keep being the narrative? Why doesn't it change? Because no one is trying to make it change. They can't stand my energy. This is why I'm the problem all the time. But it goes all the way back to who's in the circle. And when you are divergence to the system, like Jaylen Brown is, saying, oh, he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. So does like everybody who's a boss and CEO when they are clearly not. But that's normalized as long as you're white. It's a way of breaking and trying to keep their foot on our necks to say, hey, we still run the show, baby. Racism still runs the show. Meanwhile, they remind you, you own nothing. You guys beg for ownership in the NBA. Over 80% of the players are African American, yet where the black ownership? Here it is, 2026. We had Michael Jordan in Charlotte. You see what I'm saying? This is the same thing Tupac said in his last interview before he died in 1996. They said, well, you ain't got to be nothing because you got Michael Jordan, Bill Cosby, and all them, like, and Malcolm X. Now you got an excuse to not do nothing. And he's like, I ain't with that. Well, look, you got Michael Jordan. You guys have made it because they let 3 guys in. That's supposed to change the world. Well, hey, everybody used to go out with Gabrielle Union. I wouldn't say that's a flex. Mm-hmm. Well, Steve Young, yeah. I mean, here's the thing about Steve Young. Steve Young didn't have no big house, a lot of cars, nothing. You know why? Because he was well into his Jewish faith. Jewish man is not supposed to own anything. So I don't want to own a house. He rented out an apartment, a condo. All the money he made, he was renting out. Didn't own anything. Going up under his Jewish law. So Michael Jordan can't even build a black bank or a black hospital. They would absolutely take him down if he did that because it's all about control. I know he just did something like 2 years ago because of his daughter and all this. He started building a hospital for teens or something for women, for black women and stuff. He's like, yeah, I might as well do something now because I've been sitting down, ain't doing shit for years. I don't know if he's Mormon or he's either a Mormon or Jewish or whatever you want to call it. But I believe it was his Jewish beliefs. But hey, whatever you want to say. No, I wasn't saying Tim Tebow would be fired. I was saying that Tim Tebow, they would say he would resign And if you white, you resigned. If you black, you got fired. That's what I'm saying as an example. But no, he got re-signed, like reassigned. Like that's what he got. He got reassigned to college football. But I was using that as an example. Mormons believe New Jerusalem would be in America. Ooh, man, they're about as nuts as the Latter-day Saints. We're the Latter-day Saints. Okay, what's the difference between you and somebody else? Who made you Latter-day? I'm like, I don't remember anybody coming back saying, hey, new rule. We got a new law now. Yeah, they come down and be like, yeah, no Burger King, no fast food, no McRib. That is absolutely correct. We knew exactly what happened in those scenarios because, they were going to play out this way. It's all part of the game. And as long as you're part of the circus, because that's what they want. They want you a part of this circus. They don't want you to change the narrative, go in a different direction. They go, nah, we want you to stay and remain right in your seats. We want you to be right here, front line and center, while we dissect this thing. That's what it's all about, really. The majority of the people that were supposedly involved in the said scenarios, they've all transformed themselves from one thing to another. When the power belongs to you, you have the power. You are the buying power. You're the viewing power. The movies are dying. You know when they're not dying? When black folks go to the movies. All of a sudden, the MCU losing all this money, right? You know why? Black folks weren't going to the movies. When Wakanda come out and Black Panther, we showed up. And out of all that, the MCU is dead. What movie was making the money? Black Panthers. So their whole thing was, hey, we got to go back. Right, we got to go back to featuring and putting out these black characters in the shows. Because black people showed that they will come out and we want to get the black folks out. Now you got all these white people, Asian people, Hispanic people, they go see movies. They go as a family. Shoot, Black Panther came out, they had Big Ma there on an oxygen tank, wheeling her in there to see the movie. I'm like, man, they bringing Big Ma outside. And everybody was from Wakanda. No one ain't never heard of it. And we got Wakanda right up the street. Spelt different, but Wakanda, Illinois is out here. No. When you start seeing people that doesn't usually go along with status quo. Let's say right now, like yesterday it was about 50% of people thinking Ryan Clark should be fired. That was like at 50-50 when we did that with the engagement. Right? So it was like some people felt like, yeah, he probably, yeah, I see why they got rid of him. But Cam Newton, I don't know. So let's throw the poll out there. Let's see where we at. Let's see where we at with it right now. The poll out there. We let y'all pick. Should Cam Newton have been fired? Well, they're going to find a race angle to everything. And yes, this is racial, but it's done by the people that always hide their hands. It's not done by the people that claim that they're doing X, Y, and Z. Because they don't want you to see. Don't want you to see something, you won't see it. That's why you got to look into different markets, like I was telling you yesterday when about stocks. So everybody in the VIP Patreon, I will build you a pie, your portfolio pie. I will show you where to go. Now, whether you choose to go there or not is on you. We already did one company already. Oh, when you start putting things in perspective and you start saying to yourself, this is where I want to go. This is the avenue I want to, emerge. This is when you start making those type of decisions, then you can put yourself in a position to say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I want to do. This is how I feel the scenario should be. Oh yeah, Patreon's gonna be on fire. No. No, buddy boy. It's not gonna go that way. Is that what you thought? Hell no. No, it's not gonna be that way. Because see, you're surrounded by a probability storm. You're surrounded by a lot of different probabilities. See, the NFL is bringing the Super Bowl to ESPN for the first time. They're not going to let Ryan Clark, they're not going to have anybody that might say something out of school on there or for the coverage of the Super Bowl. They want all this thing to go back to the good old boy days. Hell no. Who said that? Anybody who said that doesn't know, they don't know anything, man. They're just making the observation because that's what they feel it needs to be. Right. Nobody even watched the ESPYs. That's how bad it was. Nobody even talked about it because World Cup was going on. No one cared about any SP awards. I was like, nobody, they got obliterated. They were just talking about that. We were talking about it yesterday on the live stream. Nobody talked about the Knicks championship, and they was like, man, this is bad. Why would they have a World Cup here in the United States? Crying about, then they came up here lying yesterday, outlawed them. No, we're still celebrating here. No, it was OKC. No one cared about. I'm like, OKC had a far greater run than y'all. Nobody's talking about it. It's all ball out here every day by himself swinging. I never watched the ESPYs. Nobody do. ESPN ain't bringing Shannon back. They are not bringing Shannon Sharp back to cover the NFL or anything else. No. Now that the NFL is in control, no. Shannon Sharp won't be. That'll be Black Hawk. He'll be ready to go. They're going to be, uh-oh. Shannon Sharp is standing next to a cheerleader talking about Sports Live. This could go wrong. She was like, all I said was, excuse me, miss, I want to get over here to this thing. And she was like, he was just so terrified. I ain't say nothing. I just said, excuse me, miss. When has excuse me, miss, been a problem? It's okay. Just calm down. No, God damn it. Be about crack the table. Shannon Sharp that messed up the most money of anybody in professional podcasting and like broadcast, everything. Like, I'm like, Shannon had the whole thing in one hand and blew it. Well, the majority of the people, no, Gil blew a lot of money professionally, but no, he normally gets paid out. It's just that everything turns to cinder, and ash after it's done. No, I don't really feel like that. I feel that the world is changing. And if the world is changing, then yeah, if the world is changing on you, where are you going to be? Yeah, all of it's changing. It's a digital world now. And now that the fans got control, the people are back in control as to what's going on. So when you start looking at the trajectory of what's happening out here, you could see and sense where, things have gone off the rails, where they did matter and where they don't matter anymore. All the narratives change and take form and go into different, yeah, they go into their old different crawl. No, a lot of them don't understand the processes that today's media now is done on the internet. The NBA, they don't really use television to market their product anymore. They use the internet. They go on completely on the internet searching for people. That's been happening since 2016. They tried to recruit me to be one of the people that I would basically have to abandon my channel and work for them and write propaganda and look for others that's going to do propaganda work. They wanted me to upgrade my camera and all this stuff and do this and basically say the agenda crap that they wanted me to say. And I'm like, oh, you guys got it all wrong. I'm not that guy. See, this is when streaming first came out. And that was in like 2018. And I was getting like 30,000 views, people watching. Like we had like 9,000 people in the chat. It was crazy, crazy numbers. Every time I streamed the game. So watch parties and all that stuff. I've been doing that since they started streaming in 2018. I was covering the Cavs and Golden State Warriors finals. When they started doing live stream, I was doing that. When live stream first came out, those used to be my live streams. Now I stream more than I upload. When I used to upload more than I stream. Oh yeah, that's a great documentary with Well, that's why ESPN is a dead platform. They should just be for programming, not trying to, what I mean by programming, like run a sports show. Have Sports Center come on, play games, like broadcast NFL games, NBA games. Once you start going down this agenda, we're going to use this to determine who's who and what's what. Yeah. Well, we'll see. %70 of you believe that Cam Newton shouldn't have been fired. I can get with that. Ain't nobody celebrating the Knicks. Stop. Nobody, and people in New York don't even care no more. They had to put Jalen Brunson in WWE for somebody even to remember. Like, oh yeah, they did win, didn't they? It's like, wow. Because the whole NBA news has been totally changed by what factors? Giannis, Luka, where LeBron's going. They're controlling the NBA media, not the New York Knicks. All this free agency. Yes, sir. Will buy. They too broke. The NBA is broke. They're on a system. They can't have a shutdown. If they have a shutdown, they don't. No, they would. If they would have choke slammed Jalen Brunson, and I would have laughed my ass off. But to have Karl Anthony Towns choke slam somebody has to be the most flukiest thing I've ever seen in life. He said, I don't watch ESPN, but I voted no. Right. Only people from New York was even voting. Like, nobody cared enough to even watch the ESPYs. Like, you get the vote. I'll be like, yeah, right. But anyway, man, I'm going to get out of here. Love, peace, and hair grease. See y'all on the Patreon.